Hello and welcome to Alke-Centric. This is Umlungisi Kandlala, umuyicwanini sibuye sikhabakhabane sekhaba uveze ngonyawo. Sala kulandela singalandelwa nanguSathane uqobo. Thank you for watching Alke-Centric. Please like, share, subscribe and comment on the comment section below. Today I'd like us to talk about what I would say is Bantufication of a Western culture, because it is not even a Western culture. Where do you find this Bantufication of, or where do you find this Bantufied Western culture? You find it in what we now call urban areas. That would be either townships or suburbs. A lot that is done in these places is neither a white culture nor a black culture. Some would argue and say it is an evolution of a black culture, but that's far from it from my point of view, and I could be wrong, and I'm willing to be taught and corrected whenever I am wrong. Why do I say it is a Bantufication of a Western culture? Like let us talk about something that is as simple as a wedding. We in South Africa have something that we call a white wedding. We also have a traditional wedding. And when you study what actually is a white wedding, it's actually my understanding of what a white wedding is. It's a white concept. It is a white man's concept of a wedding. That is my understanding of a white wedding, and it is done in so many ways. And when you look at it, to a certain extent, there are differences to what white people do. It's not an entirely white when you go there, because even white people are not really familiar with it. Yes, the culture in terms of how people dress, but then you go to the slaughtering of cows. Some would go as far as Bapahle, which is talking to ancestors. Now you look at it, this is not an African culture, but it's a Western culture that does not look so Western as well. So it is a Bantufied Western culture. A lot happens in this Bantufied Western culture. We find ourselves lost because there is no one has their role. It's just people living. It's just people are just living for the sake of living. Not to say that that is wrong. No, I'm not saying that. That is not about wrong or right. What do I mean about that? I'm actually talking about, you see an old man and a young boy. There are not so much differences between the two, because you'd find a 59-year-old man in a tavern, and you'd also find a 16-year-old boy in a tavern, or even younger than that, if everyone remembers the incident of young kids dying in a tavern in the Eastern Cape. I'm not sure whether it was East London, Emonti. You see, those were kids. And the question is, where were the parents? What were the parents saying when kids as young as that leave the house? You know, that is now that is a topic for another day, because like that's where you actually see a reactionarism in us. We prefer to react than to be actually proactive, act before something happens. In our culture, we had a thing of a child is raised by a village. It takes a village to raise a child. Yes, that's what they say. Now you come to a bantufied Western culture. My child is my child. You cannot touch my child. My child can do as they please, whenever they please, wherever they please. You, what do you mean by that? I remember when I was in the rural areas, I think it still happens to this day. You would not just walk with a girl on the streets, no. Freely walking around with a, yes, it's your girlfriend, but there's an element of respect. Nothing is just too obvious that, okay, I have to do it. It is time for me to do such things. No, there's no such a thing in our culture. You still need to respect your elders. You still need to find a way, not necessarily to hide it, to hide, but you need to find somewhere private where it is not a public display. Uh, but in our days, that happens easily, even in rural areas, especially where I come from. It happens, and you find that when back then, when a girl would come and sleep over at your house, we know that's not allowed, but we made sure that a girl would leave your house maybe 4 a.m. in the morning when it's dark. You take her home so that when their parents or when her parents wake up, they find her home. But now she can just walk in at 10 o'clock and no one can ask her where she comes from, because she deserves privacy and all of these. And all of this has created a disorganized society, has created a disorganized society. That's why today we have the culture of AMA 2000. Everyone blames them as if they created the situation, but they were born in it. They didn't create the situation, they were born in it. So no one wants to take responsibility to say that we as parents did not play our role as parents, or our society is not conducive for us to raise disciplined adults, because we are way too far. We are far away from our customs, because when we were closer to our customs dictated how we behave, not your parents necessarily, but our customs. So, like I just mentioned, this thing of walking around with your girlfriend. If you were to do that back then, any parent from wherever can may punish you. That would be hitting you or whatever they choose to punish you with, and you would do as they say, because it is not your parents' rules that rule, but societal rules that rule. So you know that whatever happens in the streets, if you've done wrong, you cannot go home and complain, because you'd get a hiding, because your mother or father knows that a parent is not mad for them to actually give you a hiding for something that you did not do, for doing right. So we need to relearn who we are. Maybe, just maybe, we will find our way back to our core values. Ubuntu, who we are, because that is lost. Today, a 12-year-old is allowed to be pregnant and have an abortion without the consent of the parent. You see, that is a disturbed environment for children. Children are taught about so many things, so many genders. It's It's shocking and scary. Children are populated with nonsensical ideas. Um, let me not dwell too much on this. Let's continue this conversation on the comment section below. Please like, share, subscribe, and see you next time. From Ucwanini, Diticamako.